Hi everyone, thanks for your patience. We're just admitting everybody into the session. Once everyone's in the session, we will start. Okay. Well. Fab. I think we're nearly there. Right, okay, so let's kick this evening off. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the National Highway Step Up Live Online Career Challenge. My name's Rachel Keane. I'm the founder of the Data Inspiration Group and the Digdata programme, and we give students like yourselves the opportunity to gain virtual work experience and develop essential data literacy and storytelling skills, which are increasingly in demand across a wide range of careers, from business, finance, technology, health and government. So today's 45-minute briefing session with National Highways will give you the opportunity to meet the team who have created the Career Challenge, Festival Fun and Missions Undone. They will give you hints and tips on how to approach this bite-sized project by talking through the data set they have created for you to use to answer the Career Challenge questions, and some tips on how you can share your answers in a presentation format. So there's going to be two approaches to this career challenge. There's a data science one. For those of you who are keen to apply your technical programming skills to a real world problem, this will be the one that you should choose. There's a data strategy approach. So for those of you who are keen to develop your data literacy skills, or indeed start your data literacy journey, this is for you. So after today's session, you will all receive an email within approximately sort of 60 or so minutes from us that will include everything you need, including a recording of this live session, to complete the career challenge. So you can complete the challenge independently, you can work with a pal, you can work in a team, and you will have 14 days to complete this and email it to us. And all of this information will be reiterated at the end of the session, just in case you've just joined. Now, you'll notice that we've disabled your cameras and your microphones, and we ask you to communicate with us using the chat function only. Should you not be able to access the chat function, please email info@digdata.online and we will do our very best to help you. If this technical matter is not solved today, please make a list of the questions you would like to ask, and if they're not covered in the session, please email them to us at info@digdata.online after today's session. So this is a virtual work experience event. We expect appropriate behaviour throughout this evening's session. This is not an opportunity to use the chat function to talk to friends, or we will remove you, and for future events you will not be invited. So we want this to be a positive experience. This is a great opportunity to really apply your curriculum learning to a real world problem, and also to gain some knowledge about a new and exciting career that perhaps you hadn't had any visibility to. Now, without further ado, Paul, if you can share the first housekeeping slide, please.
Yeah, just bear with me 2 seconds.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, so I have talked through most of this. I'm just going to give you a couple of seconds to read through it. Again, make a note of info@digdata.online if you have any technical issues at all throughout today's session. Okay, so I believe, Paul, it's over to you to start the Step Up Career Challenge. Enjoy, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thanks all. So first thing I want to do is just introduce the team that are going to be presenting to you this evening. So my name is Paul Hurst. I'm a cloud solution architect with a company called Amy. We work as a supplier to National Highways, and I've been working closely with the National Highways Digital Lab team for the last 3 years, managing what we call the data science platform. So that's me. Over to Steve.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephen Whitehead. I'm a lead geospatial data manager at National Highways. I've worked with National Highways for almost 6 years and joined the Digital Labs geospatial team just over 2 years ago. I shall now pass on to Nicolette.
Thank you, Stephen. Hi everyone, I am Nicolette Formosa. I'm a lead data scientist at National Highways. I have worked in National Highways for the past 3 years, and I have been part of the Digital Lab just over 4 months ago. And now I'll pass on to Sophie.
Hi everyone, I'm Sophie O'Neill. I'm a data scientist who's been working for a company called Arab for the past 4 years, and I've recently begun working with the team here in the digital lab. Back to you, Paul.
Brilliant, thanks very much. So to begin with, just to give people, late joiners, a chance to come into this call. It's got a bit of fun, a very small quick-fire quiz to learn a little bit about national highways. So we've got 3 questions with multiple choice answers. Feel free to put your answers in the chat. We're only going to allow 30 seconds per question. So for the first question, how many miles of the total road infrastructure do national highways manage? I've got 3 options. Option A, 1,500 miles. Option B, 4,300 miles, or C, 10,000 miles. So I'll just give you a few seconds.
Just looking through the chat here, Paul. Okay, we've got quite a lot of Bs, quite a few Cs, no As at the moment. Okay, I'm going to call it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to go B.
Right, okay, and the answer is, he says, just bear with me. No, it's not. Hang on a second, I've lost my place, just bear with me. The answer is B.
Fantastic.
So, second question. What percentage of all UK road traffic is carried on the National Highways road network? We have option A, 5%, B, 15%, and C, 33%.
Okay, we've got a lot of Cs coming through here. Yeah, I'm going to call it C as the final answer.
C is the correct answer. It is 33%. And the final question, how many regions is the National Highways road network divided into? It's either 3, 6, or 9.
Okay, I'm just starting to. I would say the resounding B.
B is the correct answer. We have 6 regions, and they are Northwest, Northeast, Midlands, East, Southeast, and Southwest. So after that, I will now hand over to Nicolette to talk a bit more about national highways. Over to you, Nicolette.
Thank you, Paul. So, who are national highways? Can you put some guesses in the chat of what we do? And then I will explain exactly what we actually do. So here, as you can see in this slide, there are some very big numbers and very surprising facts. We at National Highways manage and maintain the road network. There are 95 billion miles covered by vehicles on the road network every year, which is equivalent of doing the trip from the sun and back 511 times, which is quite a lot. There are actually 3 times more people that use our road network than the UK rail network. And also, our road network carries 34% of all traffic as well as 68% of all freight, despite the fact that our road network only accounts to 2% of the nation's roads. But most importantly, which is very important to us, is that since 2015, casualties on our roads have been reduced by 18%, which makes the UK roads one of the safest in the world. So how do you think we use data at National Highways? What comes to mind when you think of how data can improve the road network? Feel free to drop some of your thoughts in the chat. So imagine
I'm just keeping an eye
Imagine
on the
that-
chat there, Nicolette, just to let you know.
Yeah. Perfect. If you feel free to interrupt if there's something interesting.
Okay. So we've got here to better align the route to reduce traffic, to improve road network and road safety, tracking flows of traffic, motorway lane management, check emissions and road conditions, improve safety, traffic to predict future flows of traffic, improve safety.
So that
coming through quite a lot.
It actually hits the nail on the head, because that is partly of some of the things that we do. So every day we collect loads of data from roadside operational technology, and we work with third parties as well to get the full picture of what is going on our road network. This data then gets stored in a central place where it is all curated to help us make smarter decisions. So, for example, we use data to understand traffic patterns, as was said in the chat, for safety, in order to monitor any incidents and what is going on the road network. But it's not just about solving problems, it's also creating benefits for everyone. This data helps to enhance safety, offer more travel choices based on what is going on, and optimize the use of our existing road network. And the impact does not stop there, because we also aim to reduce carbon emissions, and we are always aiming to improving air quality and supporting economic growth. So now that we have discussed the importance of data, let's look into some of the tools and technologies that make all of this happen. So as you can see, there are lots of icons on the slide. These are a mix of powerful platforms and programming languages to collect, analyze, and visualize our data. So for example, maybe some of you have already used Excel to create a table or a graph, as can be seen top left. We use it too, to imagine how to create graphs, to work with data with millions of rows. We also use Azure Data Lake and SQL and PostgreSQL, which handles large amounts of data like traffic flow, carbon emissions, and other things that go on to make smarter decisions for our roads. So maybe if you want to engage a little bit in the chat, what is the biggest data set that you have worked with in Excel? And then imagine scaling it by 1,000 times for national highways. Another part of what we do is version control code. So we use Azure DevOps, which is like our team's diary, to keep track of all the changes that we do to make code so that no one accidentally overwrites someone else's work. For some analysis, this is where all the magic happens, because we come up with conclusions and decisions. So we use tools like Databricks, Python, to help us analyze patterns, to predict traffic jams, and to find maybe the optimal travel route. So a fun fact to share, I see that somebody else used Python in the chat, is Python is one of the most popular languages for data science. So if you have used Python before, maybe write in the chat what you have used it for. That's really interesting for us to know. We also, what Stephen presented is on geospatial. We use QGIS and Esri to map everything for our motorway layouts. And for visualization purposes, we use Power BI, Python, and Excel. And as well for team organization, we use Azure DevOps. So these are some of the tools and technology that we use. And now I'll pass on to Sophie to present the challenge.
Oh, great. So yeah, on to the challenge at hand. So the team here have put together a challenge that we're calling Festival Fun Emissions Undone. Now, I'm sure a lot of you on the call maybe have been to a festival before, or perhaps you're planning on going to one next year and it's kind of getting to that stage where you're starting to plan and get tickets. But if so, you'll know how much of an impact that the travel choices you make and how you get to a festival could have. not only on the overall experience of the festival, but also on the carbon emissions of the festival and of yourselves. Research around this suggests that between 30 and 80% of a total emissions of a festival come from the travel to and from the venue. So it really can have a massive impact depending on where the festival is located. So what is your mission in all this? Paul and Steve and I will go into a bit more detail on it later in the event, so stay tuned for that. But essentially what the mission is taking your data and your analysis skills. We'd like you to analyze the travel data to a festival and make some recommendations on what the best and most eco-friendly travel options are based on the locations. But before we go into the details, I thought we would take a little bit of a look into what carbon emissions are. Before I do that though, I do have a question for you guys. I know that younger people are increasingly considered to be more carbon aware, but I'm wondering how much of a consideration that would be for everybody here on the call when you're attending an event like a festival or anything similar. Would you say it's a little bit of a consideration? Maybe something you have in the back of your mind, maybe it's a lot of a consideration, it's very important, or maybe not at all, or somewhere in between, who knows? But it's kind of interesting to see because I think everybody is very different. It could be something that on a day-to-day you think about, but something like this you might not. But yeah, if you have opinions, put them in the chat. So, very important, cool. So into what is carbon emissions, especially in relation to travel. So this would refer to the amount of greenhouse gases emitted by a vehicle while it's in use. And it's usually measured in grams of CO2 equivalent per kilometre. So you can see on screen some of the information on the amount of emissions by cars in the UK, but it's usually between 173 to 180 depending on the fuel type. There's also a lot of other factors that might affect the emissions, like the size of the car. Generally bigger cars mean more emissions, the fuel type, so whether it's diesel, petrol, or maybe even electric. Also driving conditions, so you can imagine travel levels or traffic levels will have a big impact. Longer time in the car would mean more emissions. Also how many people are traveling in a car. You can imagine carpooling is less cars on the road, which means less emissions. These all might be things that are something worth thinking about when you're doing your challenge, all the different ways that could reduce emissions. But these are all the factors you might want to consider when you're driving in order to help reduce emissions. But yeah, that's everything on emissions. Handing back to you, Paul, I think, to get into more details of the challenge.
Thank you very much. Right. So, on to the challenges. So we have for you two very distinct pathways to choose from. And then we've also got a third stretch target for those of you who would like to take the challenge a little bit further with an additional data set. But there's nothing stopping you doing all of three if you would like to. So the first pathway is the data strategy approach. This is designed for those of you who are less experienced in working with data sets and coding in Python. This challenge can be completed using just Excel or a similar tool. So the question for this challenge is, how can we best promote sustainable travel to the festival goers? And then the specific task to complete is analyze our data set to make an informed decision on the most effective communication strategy to achieve this. The second challenge is the data scientist approach. This is designed for those of you who are a bit more confident in working with data using tools like Python. It provides the opportunity for a more detailed analysis of the data sets using code. So the question for this challenge is, can you advise us how different travel choices can affect the carbon footprint? And the specific task to complete is leverage diverse data sources to recommend environmentally friendly travel options. And then we also have a geospatial approach for those of you who would like a stretch target. This approach uses an additional data set containing geospatial data. So we will look at these three different approaches in a little bit more detail now to help you decide which approach might be most suitable for you. So for the data strategy approach, what are we actually asking? To repeat the question, how can we best promote sustainable travel to the festival goers? analyze our data sets to make an informed decision on the most effective communication strategy to achieve this. And this is about identifying what type of advice and encouragement to send out to festival goers to reduce their travel carbon footprint. The advice may differ depending on where festival goers are located, and therefore where their journeys start from, what type of vehicle they use to travel, and how many people are in their travel group. There may not be a perfect answer, but what meaningful information can you obtain from analysing the data provided? So the high-level steps you will need to complete this are: explore and analyse the data. This means opening up each of the data files in turn and getting an understanding of what type of data is available to work with, which parts of the data set might be most useful to help you answer the question. You do not need to absolutely make decisions at this point on data to use, but getting familiar with the data sets will help your thought process as you work through the problem. Then we have data cleansing. Are there any problems with any of the data that's been provided? Examples being maybe there's some incomplete rows or null values. A large part of working with data is getting it ready for analysis. There's usually an exercise of processing and cleansing to do on a data set before it can be used for analysis. Then we have data summary and aggregation. This is about combining or joining useful data together to make it easier to analyze and view results. And then we have interpret and report findings. Data is only useful when we can obtain insights from it to make better decisions. A key part of a career in data is to be able to communicate your findings in an appropriate way for your audience, for example, to fellow data colleagues or to non-technical managers. What decisions can be made based on your data analysis? What is the best way to communicate your findings to festival goers? How can festival goers be encouraged to choose an eco-friendly transport option when travelling to the festival? Do you need a social media campaign with a specific message? Does the strategy involve creation of an email that gets sent out with all tickets? Do you target different areas in different ways? What will the message be? It's for you to decide. There are many different ways to complete this challenge with no absolute right or wrong way. We want you to think outside of the box. This challenge can be completed with just Excel or equivalent and pen and paper, but feel free to use PowerPoint, Word, Canvas, or similar tools to design for a communications piece. Be creative. So on to Sophie now to go through the data science approach.
Yeah, so with the data science approach, first of all, to repeat the question again, can you advise us how different travel choices can affect the carbon footprint, leverage diverse data sources to recommend environmentally friendly travel options? Sorry, that's a bit of a typo on this slide there, but hopefully you can understand. So this approach is designed as an opportunity to complete more of a deep dive into the data, typically using Python or any equivalent coding language that you're comfortable with in order to analyze the data and obtain some insights. So, and with an approach like this, you might get more insights than maybe just using Excel, diving deeper into the data. So the high-level steps that you'll need in order to complete this approach are as follows. First of all, reading in the data. So this means getting the data into the tool of your choice, querying it, analyzing it a little bit. Then to examine the data. So similar to the first approach, you want to get familiar with the data that you have, what's available between the different tables and the different columns, what you have, and maybe start to decide which files and which columns, which pieces of data you'll need in order to solve your problem. Next is cleaning up the data. So as was mentioned again before, it's very difficult to query data when there's lots of inconsistencies, null values, missing data, stuff like that. So you want to think about how you're going to clean up the data and make it easy to analyze. Next is the analysis. So this is where you're going to start to develop your code and start to analyze the data that you've chosen to work with in order to generate some results and generate some insights and start to figure out your results. Next is visualizing the data. So figuring out what's the best way to represent the data and kind of what trends you want to show, how you want to communicate it. Then it's interpreting and reporting your findings. So this is where you make a decision based on all your results and based on everything you found, then create a report of the findings. So as mentioned by Paul, again, communicating the findings to somebody who's a non-data person is really a key part of our jobs. So you want to see if you can tell a story to a non-data audience.
Sophie,
and this
can I just, sorry, I was just going to interrupt you. We've got a question that I think is quite apt. Do you need predictions as well with the data science approach, or just the analytics?
We've left it similar to what Paul was saying. We've left it quite open. There is no one right way to solve this. If your knowledge and understanding goes as far as just analytics, then that's fine. If you can make predictions, that's great. It really is just for you to solve it the best way that you think is possible. And really just to explore all of your skills and maybe even learn. If you're new to predictions, you could try it out. But yeah, there is not one right way to do it, just to solve it and come to a good conclusion.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sophie.
Cool. But yeah, then just to finish off, this challenge ideally needs a language like R or Python, whatever you're comfortable with. But you could even complete it in Excel if it's necessary, if you're able to do some further analysis in Excel. If that's what you're comfortable with, go with it. So on to Stephen.
Sorry, there was another slide, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, sorry, it's me next.
Sorry.
Sophie, I've lost the ability to take control. Can you just move on to the next slide for me, and I'll just.
Sure. I think you're still. Do you not still have control? I thought I didn't take it over.
Oh, sorry. There we go. That's great. Brilliant. Okay, thanks. So a little bit now on the data sets for both the data strategy approach and the data science approach. We have provided 6 files which make up the data set. We have the festival journeys, congestion factor, eco-consciousness, emissions, extra costs, and fare per mile. On the right hand side of this slide, you can see the screenshots from a couple of those files. The top one is from the festival's journey file, and the bottom one is from the emissions file. The festival journeys file is the main file for the dataset, with the others providing supporting data. So you may not want or need to use all of the data in these files. Again, it's up to you to evaluate which data will be useful to help you solve the problem. The festival journeys file includes where a journey originates from, a mode of transport, e.g. petrol car, electric car, train, bus, etc., journey distance, and travel time. The emissions file gives you information on emissions per mile for each mode of transport. Using data from both of these files would be a good starting point to gain insights into journey options for low carbon emissions. These files may or may not be clean, so you need to do an exercise to evaluate the quality of the data and possible methods to cleanse the data ready for analysis. This is a very real exercise data analysts and data scientists will go through to understand and decide on the value of specific data sets. So Steve is now going to go through the geospatial stretch objective and the specific data sets for that. Over to you, Steve.
Thanks, Paul. I'll just move on to the next slide. So the final pathway is a geospatial challenge. But before we get into describing the challenge, I'd like to ask a question of everyone. How many of you know what geospatial data is? Just give a few moments in the chat.
Damien, if you've got an answer, pop your answer in the chat.
Just an I do or a yes, or if you want to talk about more, that's great. It's always nice to see who knows about geospatial data.
Sure.
So,
there's quite a few yeses coming through. There's a couple of no's, but it seems to be the majority yes, which is great.
That's good. So geospatial data is still data, but it has the added context of where it is located, as well as the how, what, when, and why. So that's particularly effective for visualization and presentation of the data. The geospatial challenge we've set is designed for those of you who want to see how geospatial data can be used to enhance their data analysis and visualization. So let's remind ourselves of the question again. How can you use geospatial tooling and techniques to enhance the analysis of travel choices and report on the impact of delays on those travel choices? Also, how can we work with the festival organisers to reduce the overall carbon impact of festival travel choices? So the high-level steps are very similar to what was being described in the other approaches. However, there are some differences to consider. So with geospatial data analysis and visualization, you need to set up a project or a place where you're going to be working and find a suitable base map to visualize over your data. You'll need to think about what coordinate reference system you want to use as well. When examining the data, you want to make sure that you're familiar with its structure and can understand how it relates to other data sets. Think of how you can use and combine non-spatial data with spatial data to provide that context, that's much needed context. During your analysis stage, you will need to consider what statistical and spatial analysis tools will you need to use to answer the questions. Also, an understanding of the different units used and whether any transformations are needed to make data compatible. The visualization part is where geospatial excels. However, think about how best to present the data in a map form. The color and symbology is just as important as the data itself when telling a story. There are a variety of geospatial software for you to use, from the proprietary software like Esri's ArcGIS Pro to the free and open source software like QGIS. You may even want to go down the data science approach with geospatial elements, using Python packages such as GeoPandas or Shapely to do your analysis, or even SQL queries within a database such as a GeoPackage file or a Postgres database. There are lots of ways you can approach this challenge and are lots of resources available to you on the internet for each software option. And now we'll have a look at the data as well. So National Highways provide you with some route extracts from our network model that has several routes from multiple origins, all converging on the Eco Sounds Festival in Heaton Park. These routes can be found as individual layers within each of the database files we've provided, along with non-spatial table of delay metrics for each of the links in the routes. There's also a couple of lookup tables that describe the links within the geospatial data. These files are lightweight databases that can be used in different software options. The GeoPackage is good for use within QGIS and allows you to write SQL queries and load results to the map canvas, while the file geodatabase is great for use with ArcGIS Pro. There is also the CSVs containing the delay emissions for different vehicle types as well. So finally, presenting your findings or storytelling. Data is most impactful when it tells a story. Being able to build a narrative from your data analysis helps in making compelling arguments and drives decision making. The ability to back up your decisions with documented analysis is key, and delivering those findings to different stakeholders is a useful skill to have. So how can you best communicate your findings to your target audience in a clear, concise, and appealing way? This could be through a poster created in Canva with a pen or with a pen and paper, a 4 or 5 slide PowerPoint presentation or a Power BI report, or even a geospatial dashboard or application if you have access to those sorts of things, and a video for a social media post. So that concludes our presentation to you tonight. We hope you have found it of interest and you're excited to take part. Please feel free to post any questions in the chat. Now hand back to Rachel.
Wow, well, fantastic. What a great presentation and career challenge. Certainly, everyone's got something to get their teeth into there over the next 14 days, I think. As to Stephen's point, if you've got any questions, please don't be shy. Pop them into the chat right now. And can we move on to the next slide so we can talk about the housekeeping? There's just a few more things that I want to talk through. Okay, so what happens now? So we're going to be sending you everything that you need in terms of career challenge resources to complete the challenge. You will receive that in and around 7:30 this evening. If for any reason you don't, okay, please, if you've got a phone on you right now, or you can do a print screen, please whitelist Rachel at digdata.online, Alex at digdata.online and info at, so that you can at least put them onto your safe senders list and receive them. Any problems at all, you can just drop us an email and we can tackle that either later this evening or first thing tomorrow morning. So your mission is to use the data to answer the questions that the National Highways, Arup and Amy team have discussed tonight. We want you to provide your recommendations in an impactful way. Storytelling is key in industry, which is great. But I think the most important thing, and the thing that everyone sort of said tonight, is it's important to have fun, right? This is, you know, be creative, be innovative, but most importantly than all of that, enjoy it. Now, you've got a couple of week deadline. So we need you to send your stuff back to us at info.digdata.online on the 19th of December at 6. Again, stating your full name, university year group and university name. So I've noticed a couple of questions coming in, so I'm just going to go back on those. May we use Power BI for this challenge? I think that was a yes, wasn't it? Yep, cool. How is data cleansing performed?
I can talk about that in relation to the data science approach.
Okay.
Data cleansing or data cleaning, would be the act of removing the kind of nulls, any errors, any part of the data that's incorrect, basically fixing it, removing it, replacing it. But that would be done through whatever language you're deciding to use. So through Python, through OR, you would, perform your cleansing that way. That kind of answers the question.
Anybody else got anything to add to that? No? Sophie, you've done a great job of explaining that. Thank you. Can this be done in a group? Absolutely. If you want to complete it independently, you can. You want to work with one or a group of people, that's also fine. Just make sure that when you send your submission in, that you detail everyone's names, course titles, etc. Yes, you will get this presentation as part of the Career Challenge resources that will be in your inbox in and around 7:30 this evening. If we want to try the geospatial part of the challenge, are there any learning resources you would recommend, Stephen?
So I've popped a few into the text, into the document you'll receive. There are heaps out there. Just basically look up, how to get started in geospatial. There's QGIS. Go and look at the QGIS documentation or Esri documentation. They're always quite happy to sort of explain what GIS is and what geospatial is. So just get started there, basically.
That's fantastic. Thank you ever so much. Right, let me just go through a few of these here. A moment. What email? Oh, yes, I've already put that info@digdata.online. We'll try and help you as much as possible. Can I do it with just Excel as I'm not experienced with Python? Absolutely, yes. We want you to get involved. We want you to develop these data literacy skills. So by all means, use Excel. Do we need to use secondary data? Can anybody answer that for me?
Well, we've designed the challenge so all the data you'll need is in the data sets that we're providing. Right,
okay, that's fantastic. Again, we'll be allocated in teams or to have to work individually. Entirely up to you how you want to work. Could you write the email for us to send the assignment back to, please? Yep, I will do that now. In fact, Sam, can you put info@digdata.online in the chat, please? I'm not a university student anymore. Am I allowed to participate? Absolutely. These challenges are for students that have recently graduated or career challenges and career changes. We just want everyone to get involved, okay? Because it's super important that we develop these skills. I'm hoping this will be very beneficial for your resume and CV and LinkedIn profiles. This is a fantastic opportunity to add to those documents and to be able to discuss the interview. Okay, so great addition. Let's have a look. I think we've pretty much... Is there a fail or pass? No, there isn't. Actually, if you submit your work, and of course, we'll then send you an assessment video on how the National Highways team would have approached each one of those different areas, data strategy, data science, and geospatial, and you'll then receive a virtual work experience certificate. Okay. Can we do it with somebody who has not signed up for this session? You can, but I would advise that you email me straight after this session. So Rachel@digdata.online with their details, including their email address, course title, year group, etc. And then we can add them to the list. Okay. Let's have a look. I think we're nearly there. Is this challenge considered work experience or extracurricular? I would call it work experience because you're working on a real life project with National Highways, Amy and Arup. So I would say it's more work experience than it is extracurricular. Okay. I think that is pretty much us done. So that leads me to number one, say a massive thank you. And then I know Gergely from National Highways is very keen to say a few words. Okay, so massive thank you to everybody on the call this evening for all the hard work and hours you've put in to create such amazing 3 approaches to festival fun and Missions Undone. I'm sure everybody here has really enjoyed it and has got so much, experience and enthusiasm now to go forward and complete this challenge. So let me, without further ado, go back to Gergely. Gergely, are you still on the call?
I am still on the call. Thank you, Rachel. And good evening, guys and girls and everyone. It's lovely to see you all. My name is Gergely Rakuya. I'm a philosopher by trade and the data science product manager at the Digital Lab. What I want to say as a closing remark is that life is really mysterious and we only can really make sense of it looking backwards, which is kind of hard. But I firmly believe that each one of us is a genius destined to change the world. So I want to share a very, very brief personal story with you. About 8 years ago, shortly after I graduated and started my first job, I signed up for a random professional networking event. I don't even know what it was called anymore. I don't even know why I signed up for it. I think it was an interesting speaker there. Little did I know that that event would change my life by introducing me to a challenge which really captured my imagination. And a year later or so, I will have won a thing called the Wolfson Economics Prize, which is a real thing. You can look it up. So I'm telling you this story because we've spent 45 minutes listening to an incredible presentation for a remarkable challenge that the guys and girls put together for you. And this is an opportunity to discover what it's like to be a data scientist with us at National Highways. So I want to invite you to heed the call in your heart for this adventure and dive into the challenge and push away procrastination and get it done. Who knows where this journey could take you? So buckle up and enjoy the ride.
Fantastic. What a closer. What a closing line. That was fantastic, Gergely. So save the best till last there for sure. Yes, a massive claps for everyone. So I'm going to say good night to everyone. Huge thank you again to the National Highways, Amy and Arup team members here. Thank you for providing such a great session. I know that we're going to see some fantastic pieces of work that I can't wait to share with you post the 19th of December. Good evening, everyone. Have a wonderful evening and I'll speak to you real soon. Take care. Goodbye.